Sometimes in this business, you got to have those tough conversations. You gotta discuss those difficult topics. Got to get into some sensitive areas, some places you would rather not go, and talk about things you would rather not talk about. But it's part of the deal. We can't just talk about the good things all the time. Sometimes we got to get a little dark. And that's what we're doing here today on the Morning Pitt on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. All right, maybe that was a little bit over dramatic of an intro. I'm glad we had the rock and roll music there to turn the mood around or change the vibes, I hope, a little bit. So we're not completely dark, but it's going to get kind of dark here on the Morning Pit on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. I'm Chris Peak, of course, from Panther-Lair.com. You know the website. Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com. The most comprehensive source of Pitt sports news on the internet. Football, basketball, and recruiting. You find it all at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. Nope. Got the wrong link in there. You find it all at Panther-Lair.com. And then, of course, message boards to talk to other Pitt fans all day, every day. Pitt fans are on the message boards at Panther-Lair.com talking about Pitt sports. It is the best online community of Pitt fans. And so if you're a Pitt fan, you want to talk to other Pitt fans, that's the place to go. Panther-Lair.com. And then our video wing, which I already said the link to, but you know what it is anyway because you found this video, is youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. It's our where we put all of our videos, these Morning Pit videos, Monday through Friday, video interviews, prospects, practice highlights, post-practice interviews, press conferences, all kinds of stuff. Our weekly live show like we're doing tonight at 8:30 p.m. here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. Me and Jim Hammett will be together once again to talk about everything going on in the world of Pitt sports, and you don't want to miss any of it, so make sure you like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. The subscribe button is right down there. If you haven't clicked it, you should. We appreciate it, and the more of you click it, the less I have to say it, but there's a lot of you watching these videos who don't click it, so go click it. And if you're watching this video embedded on Panther-Lair.com or embedded on YouTube, just click somewhere around the video, maybe along the top there, and that'll take you to the YouTube page, and you can click subscribe, and I won't have to ask you to do it again. You'll hear me ask other people, but I won't be asking you. So you'll be off the hook. Subscribe, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. And then like the video as well. We appreciate that. All right. Obviously, you've seen the headlines. You know what we're talking about today. And I had that little intro about how dark it's going to be. But the reality is, if you were going to take the positions on the team, if you're going to take Pitt's, quarterback, running back, receiver, tight end, O-line, D-line, linebacker, safety, corner. You can even break it down to D-end and D-tackle. You can break it down to offensive tackle, offensive guard, and center. You can break it down however you want. But I think if you were going to organize all of those positions, and I think generally we tend to say about 10 positions, right? Quarterback, running back, receiver, tight end, O-line, D-end, D-tackle, linebacker, corner, safety. 10 positions on offense and defense. If you're going to take all 10 of those positions and rank them over the course of the Narduzzi era, and this is probably something I will do likely next week on the Morning Pit. If you're going to rank them 1 through 10, best positions of the Narduzzi era, all the way down to the worst position of the Narduzzi era, with 1 being the best and 10 being the worst. If you were going to rank them, we might have some debate and discussion about what position is number 1 and who's number 2, and down through the list. 1 through 9, I bet we would have some disagreement somewhere in there. We'd have a few things to debate and discuss, and we could probably both, you and I both could make a good case, one way or the other, for a number of positions being slotted in anywhere from 1 to 9. But I think we would all agree. What about number 10? It's tight ends. And I think that's pretty indisputable. I can't think of what position has been... I don't want to be over the top about this or too negative, but I can't think of what position has been worse over the course of the Narduzzi era, from the recruiting to the transfers to the on-field production, just the position overall. And we could go through and rank these positions by NFL draft picks, all conference selections, production, recruiting, whatever we want to rank. And I think in any possible category you could come up with, tight end is going to be last. It really is. And look, they haven't been great with quarterbacks. They managed to have Kenny Pickett for 5 years, which helps. and probably covers up some of the gaps in recruiting, but they haven't been great with quarterbacks, but they did have a Heisman Trophy finalist and a first-round draft pick, so that kind of helps. O-line has been a mixed bag at times. Wide receiver, we've talked a lot about that. We talked about the receivers last week, about the sort of state of that situation, but they also had a Biletnikoff Award winner. They've had all conference selections. They had a first-round draft pick, even if he didn't come directly from Pitt. I would still put wide receiver above tight end. I would put quarterback above tight end. I would put O-line above tight end. I would put every position above tight end. And it's any way you want to slice it. I mean, if you want to talk about recruiting, tight end recruiting has just been a mess. I mean, an absolute mess for the last 8 years. I mean, if you look at Pat Narduzzi's full recruiting classes, and we could even include the 2015 class if we want, let me just double check on that, but I'm pretty sure they didn't sign a tight end that year. They had Nick Bowers committed to Paul Chryst. Bowers decided not to continue that commitment, but I think he was always headed to Penn State. So nobody signed in 2015. And again, that wasn't a full recruiting class. Narduzzi was hired in December, at the end of December, and signed the class in February. So he only had a couple months to put it together. But full recruiting classes, 2016, they didn't sign any tight ends. 2017, they signed 3, Grant Kerrigan, Charles Reeves, and Tyler Sear. 2018, they really didn't sign anyone. Kmar Mims ended up playing there, but he was a defensive end too. I think they signed him as a defensive end. 2019, Kai Wright ended up playing tight end, but they signed him as a linebacker. They might have signed Jason Collier as a tight end. I'm not sure, but I think they always knew he was going to end up playing offensive line. But Kai Wright, I think, was signed as a linebacker and started off there before he moved to offense. So you could really say, even though you could point to Kmar Mims in 2018 and Kai Wright in 2019, you could say neither one of those guys really came in as a tight end. So you pretty much got blanks there. 2020, they signed a junior college guy, Daniel Morega, no high school kids. 2021, they got Gavin Bartholomew and Jake Renda and Cole Mitchell. So there's some high school guys again. 2022, they didn't sign any high school guys. They signed Carter Johnson, a junior college guy. And this 2023 recruiting class, the guys coming in to be freshmen now, they didn't sign any high school recruits there either. So 2016, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2022, pretty much blanks, shooting blanks of high school tight end recruiting. And they get 3 guys in 17 and they get 3 guys in 21, and that helps kind of cover it up a little bit. But this is why they've had to sign, prior to this season, 6 transfer tight ends since Narduzzi arrived. Pat Narduzzi has been at Pitt for 4 or 8 seasons, and he's signed 6 transfer tight ends over the course of those 8 seasons. And those 6 transfer tight ends didn't really do much. I mean, outside of Lucas Krull in 2021, when he caught 38 passes for 450 yards and 6 touchdowns, in total, all of the transfers have combined for 115 catches, 1,100 yards, and 8 touchdowns over the course of 8 seasons. And that's 6 guys. It's Chris Clark, 1 touchdown on 16 catches. Matt Flanagan, no touchdowns on 17 catches. Will Gregg played 2 or 3 years at Pitt and had 24 catches for 177 yards and no touchdowns. Nakia Griffin-Stewart had 1 touchdown in 2019. Lucas Krull had the big 2021 season, stands as, the best single season by a tight end under Pat Narduzzi. Then you got Dylan Devaney coming in last year, and he never even plays as a transfer from Georgia Tech, guy who had some health issues. You pretty much, so you have Scott Orndorff in 2016, Orndorff's final season when he goes off under Matt Canada's offense. He's 35 catches, 579 yards, 5 touchdowns. He was the second leading receiver on the team. It was big, right? So he has that year in 16. Over the next 4 seasons, 2017, 18, 19, and 20, Pitt's tight ends caught 3 touchdowns in 4 seasons. 3 in 4 seasons. In 2018, the tight ends caught 7 passes. In 2020, they caught 9. I mean, it's the low talent level, it's the low usage, it's the low production. there is nothing good about this group. You know what I mean? There were the little highlights. So, I mean, Orndorff and J.P. Holtz were good in Narduzzi's first year. They combined for 37 catches, almost 600 yards, 9 touchdowns. J.P. Holtz was the third leading receiver on the team. He had 24 catches. And obviously, like I said, Orndorff was good in 2016 playing in Matt Canada's offense. And then Kroll had the 2021 season. And really, Kroll and Bartholomew were both really good that year with Kenny Pickett and Mark Whipple. They combined for 66 catches, 777 yards, and 10 touchdowns. But if you look at the tight ends, all of them, over the course of the Narduzzi era, they've caught 29 total touchdowns in 8 seasons. The tight end position has. 10 of them were Kroll and Bartholomew in 2021. And another 14 were Orndorff, Holtz, and Orndorff again in 15 and 16. So 5 out of the 8 seasons, the tight ends recorded 5 touchdowns. In those 5 seasons, 2017, 18, 19, 20, and 22. So, those lean years, including this past season, the tight end position averaged 23 catches, 225 yards, and 1 touchdown. I mean, we're going to talk past, present, and future here for the tight ends, but boy, howdy is the past bad. I mean, basically since Scott Orndorff, you've had 1 great season for tight ends, and you've had 5 bad seasons. I mean, there's no other way to kind of describe it. I mean, they're bad seasons. When you can go 2017, the tight ends produce 1 touchdown. 2018, they don't produce any. 2019, they produced 1. 2020, they produced 1. It's Daniel Marega, who caught 4 passes, and one of them happened to be a touchdown. I mean, it's just, it's terrible. And then, this past season, you get 2 touchdowns out of Gavin Bartholomew. That stretch, though, in the middle, 17, 18, 19, 20, with 3 touchdown catches from the tight ends. I know I'm preaching to the choir of Hell's Angels here on the particular topic. You guys know how little the tight ends have done over the past 8 years, but it's still remarkable when you lay out the recruiting, all those empty classes, when you lay out the production, all those empty seasons where it really didn't matter that they had a tight end on the field. The contributions and the production were so low and so not impactful that it didn't matter. It didn't matter if you put somebody out there. It really made that little of a difference. Why has it been so bad? I mean, I think there's a lot of reasons for it. I think there were a lot of years where Pitt's offense probably wasn't very attractive for a tight end. I do think on the whole, and I remember looking this up. I didn't research this again for this episode of the Morning Pitt, but I remember looking this up a year or two ago probably, that I think it's become harder to get good tight ends in college football. I think there are fewer of them. I think the guys who would have been impact tight ends in the past are either slimming down and playing as big receivers. I think they're bulking up and playing as defensive ends, or they're moving and playing as outside linebackers. I think the position itself is being devalued to some extent, and there's still good ones out there. I'm not going to pretend like there aren't good tight ends in college football, but I think it's harder, and it's getting harder and harder to find those guys. There are fewer and fewer of them out there. I mean, look at Gavin Bartholomew. By all accounts, one of the top tight ends of the Narduzzi era. And he was playing like quarterback, and wide receiver at his high school. It's harder to find those guys and project those guys. I mean, it's a difficult position to recruit because a lot of guys, like I say, who would probably be really good tight ends aren't playing tight end. They're playing other positions. So I think that's a real challenge. And I think, Pitt is suffering from it now. I think Pitt is probably suffering from it more than a lot of others. Other schools have seemed to find a way to get good production and good talent at tight end. Pitt just hasn't. And they've struggled in recruiting, and that's why they've ended up taking now 7 transfers and 2 junior college players over the course of 8 years. We don't necessarily count the junior college guys as transfers, but they are, they're not high school recruits. Daniel Marega and Carter Johnson are not high school guys. And so you're looking at 9, 10 non-high school tight ends added to the roster with, the 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No, I'm sorry, 9. 9 total guys, 7 transfers and the 2 JUCOs. And it's what they've had to do to supplement the roster and fill out the room because they haven't been able to recruit. They haven't been able to get the high school guys in. And they've got one committed for 2024, so that's good. Eric Ingerson, you hope that he's going to stick. He looks like a good player. He's 6'8". He's a big tight end who can move and catch passes, and that'll be good for the future. But it's going to take more than just 1 year, because we thought they were all set for the future in 2017 when they took Kerrigan and Reeves and Sear, and Kerrigan moved to the O-line. Reeves disappeared after a year, and Sear transferred, I think, to Temple after a year. I don't know what we thought in 2021. I don't think anybody was too excited about Gavin Bartholomew, Jake Renda, and Cole Mitchell. Obviously, Bartholomew ended up being really good. Mitchell and Renda have not seen the field yet. Renda played a little bit on special teams last year, but that was it. And so it's not like these issues have been resolved. And I don't know if Eric Ingerson on his own is going to be enough to resolve them when he gets to Pitt in 2 years. Or next year, I should say. So it's a tough situation. And it's a bad situation, and the reality of it. I think Pitt fans who have followed the team know that tight end has been rough. And I don't really see, it's the best way to say it, a good way out of it. I think they have to keep plugging along the way they are. I mean, hope that they can recruit better from the high school ranks and continue to fill guys in from the transfer portal, which admittedly hasn't produced much outside of Krall's one season, 2021, when he was really good. And he was a weapon. He was a big part of an ACC championship team. But they haven't gotten that out of Matt Flanagan, Chris Clark, Nakia Griffin-Stewart, Will Gregg. They didn't get it out of those guys. And I don't know if they're going to get it out of Malcolm Epps, the transfer who came in from USC, who's playing one final season at Pitt this year. He's a 6'6", 250-pound tight end. He can run a little bit. He's a good athlete. Everywhere he's gone, and he started his college career at Texas for a couple years, and then he transferred to USC. Everybody's been excited about him, and he hasn't really ended up producing. I don't think he's ever caught more than 20 passes in a season, and that was the high watermark. Everything else has been significantly less than that. I think this past year he caught 3 or 4 passes at USC. And 2 or 3 of them went for touchdowns, which is good, but on the whole, you need more production out of him. So, I don't know. I don't know what to expect out of the tight ends. I will say this year, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with Gavin Bartholomew. And I've talked about this a bunch of times. I know I've gone over it. I wrote about it again on Panther-Lair.com this week because it's tight end week. And I talked about it a lot last year. And one of the most interesting things to me about Gavin Bartholomew when comparing his freshman season to his sophomore season is the usage. If you look at his freshman year, according to Pro Football Focus, 2021, he was targeted 29 times and caught 28 passes. He was 28 of 29 for 326 yards and 4 touchdowns. That's a remarkable reception rate. I mean, far better than anybody else on the team. This past year, he had 7 more targets and 7 fewer catches. He caught 21 of 36. It's a 58% reception rate as opposed to 97. Now, he was never going to catch 97% of his targets again, but that's a huge drop. Why did it drop so much? I think it's the usage, the depth of target. We talked about the average depth of target. In 2022, this past season, his average depth of target was 8 yards. 8 yards downfield on his 36 targets. In 2021, when he had 29 targets and caught 28 of them, his average depth of target, according to Pro Football Focus, was 1.8. I mean, that is a drastic difference of more than 6 yards. And it's not just that it was a difference of 6 yards, but it's that 8 is a reasonably, middle distance number. It's fine. 1.8 is such a small number. And it's not so much of how far short of, his average depth of target last year, but it's how low that number is. 1.8 yards downfield on average per target. And then I think it comes back to how he was used and how he was deployed. So when you look at his 2021 season, Gavin Bartholomew, and you look at his snaps, he played 489 snaps on offense. 193 of those, he was lined up in the backfield. H-back, fullback, wherever you want to call it. Some games playing 20, 22 snaps per game in the backfield, as opposed to 200 snaps that he took lined up sort of as an inline tight end. So roughly the same amount, almost a 50-50 split there. And then, took some snaps in the slot, some snaps out wide, some snaps at the O-line. But the majority of his snaps were either spent at, in the backfield or in line. And he took about the same, 200 to 193. Fast forward a year to 2022, change the offensive coordinator, get a new offense in there, and Bartholomew plays 688 snaps, so he plays more total snaps. But out of those 688, 594 he was lined up as an inline tight end. Almost all of them, all but 90. And how many snaps did he take in the backfield? 4, according to Pro Football Focus. 4 snaps. 2 in the West Virginia game, and then 2 more in the final month of the season. I think Syracuse and Miami. According to Pro Football Focus. And they could be wrong about this. I know not everybody agrees with Pro Football Focus's evaluations of things, but I think they can have someone sit there with a legal pad and say 86 inline, 86 backfield, 86 slot, 86 inline, 86 inline. I think they can count that. I'm going to rely on them to, even if the numbers aren't exactly right, to be close enough to tell the story. Now, I don't know if that's why Gavin Bartholomew's production and effectiveness dropped. I don't know if it's the usage, where he lined up, the average depth of target. I don't know. But those numbers are so drastically different between 2021 and 2022 that I can't help but think there's a connection. Maybe it's just correlation. Maybe it's not causation. But that's a significant change. Significant. Will they rectify that this year? Will they correct it? Maybe part of it, as we've said, maybe part of it has to do with whether or not they have another tight end who can line up in line. You're still going to want that guy to be able to do those things. Maybe it's Malcolm Epps. Maybe it's Jake Renda. I don't know. Maybe it's Carter Johnson. I don't know. But it seems like there's a way to use Gavin Bartholomew that he was using in 2021, albeit in a different offense and with a different quarterback. But it seems like there's a way he was used then that really worked and a way that he was used last year that really didn't. Fixing that is going to be a big part of the offense. Because he's good enough to make that kind of impact if you use him the right way. And I'm not going to sit here and say that I know what the right way is, but when I look at what his numbers were last year, I can say that probably wasn't the right way. And then the rest of the group, I have no idea what to expect. I don't know what to expect out of Malcolm Epps. I don't know what to expect out of Jake Renda. I don't know what to expect out of Cole Mitchell. I don't know what to expect out of Carter Johnson. The black hole of tight end continues to be so. And we just wait to find out if they can get anything out of it. This is one of the darker morning pits that we've done, I think. One of the less fun, less enthusiastic, less positive morning pits that we've done. But eventually there was going to come a point where we were going to have to break down the tight ends. And unfortunately for us all, it's right here. It's today. So what are you going to do? But I do appreciate you tuning in today and checking it out. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And liking the video doesn't necessarily mean you agree with the content or you're happy to hear the content or you're excited. You might not like the tight end situation, but you can like the video as a show of appreciation for us putting it together here today. So like the video on that side, subscribe on this side, and then head over to Panther-Lair.com, Panther-Lair.com. Pittsburgh.rivals.com. Thanks so much for tuning in today. I appreciate it. We're at the middle of the week. Don't forget, tonight, 8:30 p.m., we will be live right here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com for the Panther-Lair Show with me and Jim Hammett, talking about everything going on in Pitt sports. We'll probably talk about the tight ends, I guess. If we have to, maybe we'll drink. We'll see. But either way, we will be back here tonight at 8:30. So tune in for that. I look forward to it. And have a great day. We'll catch up with you tonight for the live show. And then we'll be back again tomorrow for the Morning Pit right here, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.